Yeah, welcome in. Welcome back to another episode of the Format Podcast. Got a pretty interesting show for you today. Man, the NFL is going to look very different next season with some long-time great faces gone. But before we get to that, you already know what time it is. If you're here on YouTube and you haven't already, please go ahead, click that subscribe, that like, that notification bell. Definitely need your help on that. We're almost there to the magic numbers of 1,000 subscribers, 4,000 public watch hours. And as soon as we hit that, you know what's going to happen. We're going to start doing these live call-in shows. I can't wait. Can't wait. Greater interaction with you, taking the show to the next level in 2024. If you want the audio-only version of the podcast, open up your audio podcast platform, click the link, click the search bar, type in the Format Podcast. We should come right up. If you're enjoying the content, give us that like, give us that 5-star review, and leave us a comment. We love it. It helps with the interaction. And it helps us let us know what we're doing well, what we need help on, where we need to improve. So we definitely take all that into account. It also helps us rise in the algorithm, helps us find more sports fans, helps more sports fans find us. So please make sure you keep clicking, make sure you keep watching, make sure you keep listening, make sure you keep sharing the pod with other people you know who might want to hear a different voice in the sports media. All right, let's get right to it. So in the intro, you heard me say that the NFL is going to look very different next season. And why is the NFL going to look very different next season? Because some long-time NFL head coaches may not be there, or they may be in new locations, right? So who's the biggest one we're going to talk about first? I guess I'm not even going to talk about them in order of how they left their former teams. I'm just going to talk about them in general. And then if that's the case, I'm going to go to the biggest name, and that is Bill Belichick, arguably the greatest coach in NFL history, right? This is a guy who has been to 9 Super Bowls and won 6 of them, all with Tom Brady, the greatest quarterback of all time. And Bill Belichick is widely known as one of the smartest guys in NFL history, one of the most respected. He was just incredible. His record with the Patriots is 266 and 121. Let's see. He had 19 consecutive winning seasons from 2001 to 2019, which is the second longest streak in history. I believe only the Cowboys' former head coach Tom Landry had more, and I think that was 21 straight winning seasons. Crazy, right? And during that 19 consecutive winning season streak, the Patriots won 17 division championships, which is a record. What Bill Belichick and the Patriots built during that time, the Patriot way, the dynasty, whatever you want to call it, will never be replicated, right? The NFL is specifically made for parity. It's made so that one team cannot dominate from that long, right? Whether it's free agency, whether it's the salary cap, these things are made. And of course, we've got injuries, which no one wants to see anyone get hurt. But all of these factors keep one team from being at the top for so long, which is why it's testament to the greatness of Bill Belichick as a head coach and as a de facto GM that he was able to do all of this, right? If you count the time with Cleveland, the Cleveland Browns, who he was head coach of prior to the New England Patriots, he has 333 career wins, and former Dolphins and Colts head coach Don Shula has an all-time record with 347. So Bill Belichick is almost there, which leads me to believe he is not going to retire. He wants that record, right? I think the only ding you could put on Belichick, well, maybe not the only one. Obviously, you got like Spygate and Deflategate, but whatever. As we know, sign stealing has been going on forever. And as we know, you got some quarterbacks who overinflate the ball, some who underinflate it a little bit. But, there are natural and physical explanations for the change in the air pressure with temperature. I think it's ideal gas law, right? Anyone who drives a car knows that when you come outside on a cold day, you get that warning from your car that your pressure is down. But we're not going to get into all that. But the point is, there are a couple of scandals attached to Bill Belichick and the Patriots, but I think that he could care less because the guy got 6 championships and 9 Super Bowl appearances. But what we do have to talk about, and we'd be remiss if we didn't, is the fact that his record without Tom Brady, as I mentioned, the greatest quarterback of all time, is under 500. He's 83 and 104 in games coached without Tom Brady as his starting quarterback. So we gotta take that into account, right? The empirical evidence is there. When Bill Belichick has Brady, he's the greatest to ever do it. Without him, not so much, right? counting the playoffs, since Brady left the New England Patriots, he's 29-39, well under 500. It is what it is. But still, nobody is going to be able to take away from Bill Belichick's greatness. He is that good. Now, the second guy who is gone, and he was not happy about it, is Pete Carroll, who is one of the better coaches in football history. And why do I make the distinction in football history? Because Pete Carroll is one of only 3 men to have won a college football national championship and a Super Bowl. The other 2 guys are Jimmy Johnson and Barry Switzer, both coincidentally won championships with the Cowboys. Barry Switzer won a national championship with Oklahoma, won a Super Bowl with the Cowboys. Jimmy Johnson won 2 Super Bowls with the Cowboys and national championship with the University of Miami Hurricanes. Now, Pete Carroll won a national championship, maybe 2, with the USC Trojans, and then obviously he went to back-to-back Super Bowls with the Seattle Seahawks and won 1. Now, Pete Carroll, he has also had a great run with the Seahawks. He's record of 137-89-1 with them. He's been there 14 years. He's had 11 winning seasons in 11 of those years, and he's been in the playoffs 10 times. I think people don't realize just how difficult that is to do in the NFL, because as we talked about it, trying to keep a team together with free agency and the salary cap and, of course, injuries, right? As I always talk about it, the NFL is the league that has the most worst to first and first to worst from the previous season of any other leagues. And it's built that way, right? And that's why people love the NFL so much, because of the parity. You never know who's going to be great from season to season. So it's, it's a great thing to see. And Pete Carroll is an outstanding coach. He's a defensive guy. He wants to run the football. He's a defensive oriented coach, and maybe the game is passing him by. Maybe not. He hasn't had an elite quarterback or elite quarterback play since Russell Wilson left, but he did manage to, in the 2 years since that happened, he managed to make the playoffs last year and turn Geno Smith, I think, into most improved player. So Geno Smith was a Pro Bowler. Nobody expected that. But I guess the Seahawks decided that they want to start fresh, so they kind of forced him out of his head coaching position. He wasn't happy about that, and he talked about it in his presser when he, talked about the fact that he's not going to be there anymore. Now, they did try to do something nice for him and say, hey, you can stay around, you go upstairs, work in the front office, and, blah, blah, blah. But Pete Carroll, in his heart, he's a coach, right? Even though he's in his 70s, I think he's 73 now, he doesn't look like it, right? He's super energetic and, super competitive, and he's a guy that he wants to compete. He wants to play well. He wants to do well. And what I can say is, as an outstanding as a coach as he was, one of the biggest things that he'll never be able to live down, he had the #1 scoring defense 4 years in a row with the Legion of Boom. And we know that elite secondary was Earl Thomas, Cam Chancellor, Richard Sherman, Bobby Wagner, Brandon Browner. That was an elite defense. Was it the 2000 Baltimore Ravens? No. Was it the 2002 Tampa Bay Bucks? No. Was it the Steel Curtain? No. Or the 85 Bears? No. But they were an elite defense, probably on the lower end of top 10 all-time great defenses. And for all the time that the NFL has been around, you got to give credit for that. And he was able to build that, and he was able to coach that. So a lot of props to Pete Carroll for that. Now, the guy, again, outstanding coach, but the one thing that's going to stick with him forever, in 2013, they won the Super Bowl, and they beat the Denver Broncos. Peyton Manning coming off an amazing, incredible year. They beat the Denver Broncos 43-8, absolutely stomped them in that Super Bowl. And then they went back the following season, and they played who? The New England Patriots, and they had the opportunity to win, but Pete Carroll blamed it on Darrell Bevell, but Darrell Bevell was the OC. Pete Carroll was a head coach. Pete Carroll, was a head coach. He could have overridden him, and they called a quick slant at the goal line when all they had to do, I think they had 2 or 3 downs left. All they had to do was hand it off to beast mode, Marshawn Lynch, for 1.5 yards, and he probably would have gotten in there, scored that touchdown, and then the Seahawks cement themselves as one of the all-time great teams by going back-to-back. Instead, they go 1-1 in back-to-back Super Bowls, and things are never the same. Again, probably lower part of the top 10 all-time great defenses, but still an all-time great defense. All-time great run there, but it's, Pete Carroll's legacy is always going to be kind of marred by the fact that they didn't complete the job on the back-to-back when they were that close. And, It's tough, but Pete Carroll is a really, really good coach. May end up going into the Hall of Fame. Again, obviously they don't count college in the NFL Hall of Fame. It's the Pro Football Hall of Fame for a reason. But Pete Carroll had an outstanding career as an NFL head coach. And then if you're just talking about football on the whole, what he was able to build at USC and do there and then come into the league and still have success, very few men are able to do that. The third guy, Mike Vrabel, the Tennessee Titans. And the reason I bring him up is because he's not an elite head coach, but I think he did a lot with a little in Tennessee. His time over his 6 seasons in Tennessee, he was 54-45. And it's going to be real interesting to see what Tennessee does next year. They're going to look very different from the sideline to the field, right? He was 54-45 overall during that stretch. And the reason I'm impressed, he went 2-3 in the playoffs, which doesn't sound great, but again, it's hard to win in the NFL in the playoffs. And the Tennessee Titans, who have very little great names of note during his span there as head coach, they actually hosted an AFC championship game. And so that's not an easy thing to do. So Mike Vrabel did a good job there, and mainly he did it on the back of, he built up a decent defense, not elite, but he did it on the back of Derrick Henry, who had multiple 1,500-plus yard seasons and a 2,000-yard season. And Derrick Henry is going to be a Hall of Fame running back when it's all said and done. But Mike Vrabel, he did that. He didn't have an elite quarterback. He had Ryan Tannehill, so it's like, Ryan Tannehill's not a bum, but he's not a guy that's going to carry you to the promised land. And so he got let go after this year. I think they were 6-11 this season. Yeah, 6-11. And so you wonder, what's the next move for Tennessee? What's the next move for Mike Vrabel? Maybe he goes back to college. Maybe he becomes a defensive coordinator in the league, or maybe he just moves to a different spot with one of these head coaching jobs that's available. Who knows? There's going to be a bunch of them. So it's going to be very interesting to see. But again, this is a really exciting offseason, I think, both in college and professional football. But this episode is specifically about the NFL. I think it's going to be real neat to see where these guys end up. If Pete Carroll goes and coaches another team, it's going to be real neat. It's going to be real neat to see where Bill Belichick goes, because he wants to break that all-time wins record for an NFL head coach. It would have been better if he could have done it as a Patriot, but clearly I think it was time for a break, I guess. They both decided that, and, we'll see. Pete Carroll, his energy never fades. So if he goes somewhere else, who knows what's going to happen? And not just where those guys end up, but who replaces them at all those stops where they were. That's going to be the other interesting part. So definitely looking forward to finding out what happens. But it's going to be a very different NFL next season. What I want to know from you is, what do you think of the legacies of these 3 coaches? Where do you think they end up? And who do you think follows them in the spots that they left? Leave your comments in the comment section. Can't wait to hear from you. Can't wait to get back to you. And I'll be back on your next episode. And I'm out. Peace.